Since January 2016, for a year and 6 months now, the Dean twins were awarded a protective order against me while I was in Colorado and while they were in Virginia through what I consider to be a completely moralist, valueless judge, Judge Sam Eggleston of Virginia. They intended to use a protective order to basically abuse and beat me into submission. And they're all lawyers, so I also assumed that they knew that this could also put my life in danger with police officers. So my assumption is that not only did they want me, they either wanted me silenced where I was no longer able to speak about the story, be it in the media or on social media. They wanted me in jail so that I no longer was able to, again, speak on the abuse and kind of lift the curtain of the Dean twins. But I also think in the back of their head, at least Breonna Dean and William Dean, I think they wanted me to be killed in what would be later looked at as an accident by police officers trying to do their job, but accidentally killing this quote-unquote victim in the process. I think Breonna Dean knew that there was a high probability that either I would stand up for myself in front of a police officer, or that based on the false evidence that Breonna Dean and William Dean were giving to authorities, that they would come at me guns drawn. And that's exactly what happened. Last summer, I just defeated the Dean twins on the first 2 charges, and immediately after winning, they went to the magistrate and filed 3 more brand new charges. We're talking less than 20 minutes after I won my court case. They were back in there filing new violations. And I got pulled over and pulled out of my cab on the way to the airport. There was about anywhere from 12 to 15 police officers that were on me, that pulled me over, that stopped my cab and pulled me over. And several of them had guns on them. And they were asking me if I had any weapons, if I was going to do anything stupid. And this entire time, obviously I don't have any weapons. I had to fly from Denver International, which, there's security there. Then I had to go through the court metal detectors, which is another line of security. So it was obvious that I had no weapons, but yet to still have some of these police officers at the ready with their guns really hit it home that, at the very least, Breonna Dean and William Dean, they are trying to have me killed. Most certainly trying to have me killed. Right now, I am facing a felony charge, 3 charges. I'm facing a felony charge of protective order violation against 2 people who I've never lived in the same state with, never lived in bordering states with, never been violent to, never made a threat. The reason the Dean twins are doing this to me is because of the information that I ended up collecting throughout the relationship with Brittany Dean. At the very beginning of the relationship, Brittany was telling me to record Breonna, and because she knew that Breonna was going to end up doing just something terrible. Breonna had done it to several of Brittany's boyfriends in the past, so why think any differently, really? And that's exactly what happened. So that was maybe 2 or 3 months into the relationship with Brittany. So since then, I had been recording every conversation, screenshotting everything, in fear that I may need to protect myself one day from Breonna Dean and William Dean. And when I actually did release the threats that William Dean sent me, when I released Breonna Dean trying to make false accusations and false police reports to a police officer, only when those were released did they take this very aggressive, abusive action. But I am facing a felony for crimes that never happened, and it is, to be quite honest, it's been a whirlwind. I'm exhausted. I have slipped into a depression. There is no day that is a good day anymore. I'm constantly worried about the police. I'm constantly worried about these corrupt judges that I've come across. One of these judges only recused himself from the case after recorded evidence of him violating due process and suppressing relevant evidence was released. Until that point, he was totally ethically fine being on the case. But as soon as an activist group released an audio recording of him violating constitutional law, that's when he recused himself. That's the only time he recused himself from the case. My case has been just up and downs. I mean, I honestly feel like I have symptoms of PTSD. I don't sleep anymore. I'm constantly worried. There is no happiness left in my life. To be accused of crimes that you didn't commit is something that really messes with you internally. And you sit there forever and think about this. Why me? Why is this happening? And you start reading case law. And specific to protective orders and the VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, lobbied by Joe Biden back in the day, The whole reason why I'm in this scenario is because when anyone makes a claim of domestic violence, it's mandatory that an arrest must be made. And more often than not, these allegations, whether they're true or false, they protect the female in the situation. Regardless of what the details or the truths are of the situation, they immediately protect the female because she's a female in the situation. And they start to strip constitutional rights from the male more often than not. So, for example, I don't have my First Amendment right now. I am terrified to go out and speak. I can't even tell my family on Facebook that I made it out of court safe. An example of that is I did that, and I'm facing 2 charges of protection order violation because I tried to send a message to my family members saying I'm out of court and I'm safe. The Violence Against Women Act, while in theory is a really great idea and a great thing, in practice it destroys the constructs of the Constitution. I was not allowed due process. I was not allowed to make a fair case for myself. My name and my address go out online. I'm basically guilty until proven guiltier in these scenarios, and it's unfair. How many times would you actually expect your individual due process rights to be taken away and no one says a thing or cares about it at all? Well, if you don't have due process, you aren't getting a fair trial, and that has been the theme of this entire thing. Don't give Scott a fair trial. Don't give Scott his voice. If we can take away his voice, no one will know what we're actually doing here. If we don't give him a fair trial, since we are females, we'll immediately get the benefit of the doubt. So this is a scenario where an innocent victim of domestic abuse, mental abuse, myself, is further being victimized by protective orders and by their abuser. My abuser, Brittany Dean, Breon Dean, and William Dean, know this. They're lawyers. It's the first move that they went. They got the protective order and immediately had it amended for no posting on social media allowed. Social media was the avenue that I was using to speak out about the abuse that I was witnessing firsthand, that I was victim to firsthand. So they immediately shut that down so that I couldn't get the word out, so that everyone would think that these little angels over here were obviously the real victims. But in reality, they aren't the victims, they're the aggressor, and I am the victim here. I'm the one facing felonies for crimes that never happened, that I've never committed. There was never any violence involved on either side, and they are out to get me. They are successfully abusing the system, and the way the system is set up, I can't even really speak about this until I'm out of the criminal process. And once I do get out of the criminal process, most likely, nothing's going to happen to them. They are going to get away with ruining my life. I've had to spend close to $30,000 on this case, on these cases. It's been a year and a half, and I've had 5 charges against people, again, that I don't live in the same state with, that I don't even live in bordering states with. They're essentially trying to run me down to nothing, because if they continue to chip away, there's a good opportunity that I'll be eventually jailed for months, probably, maybe even years, who knows. So it's, from their perspective, it's in their best interest to continually make flagrant accusations, false accusations against me, so that I have to continually spend, $5,000 here, $1,000 on a trip out to the middle of nowhere, Virginia. If they can either run me down financially to the point where I can't afford my lawyer anymore, they will have a conviction that suits their needs.